What's up, YouTube? This is Plant-Based Booch, the geek that likes eating plants just as much as they like smoking them, and I'm finally back. As you can see, this is a new recording space. It's been a while. I've been setting it up. Peep the sweet decals in the back. Some of these are awesome stickers from independent artists, and some of these are decals that I made all by my very self. If you're like interested in having any of these, mention it down in the comments below. I'll choose one of these comments and, you know, at random, and reach out to you to do a custom vinyl decal for you. Okay, it could be for your wall, it could be for your car. I'm going to be doing a separate video of just a tour of the new studio space, so you could see what each one of these stickers and designs is on their own, and the homages to some of my favorite artists, movies, properties, what have you. But I'm back, and I want to talk entertainment, and I want to discuss the DC moments that have resonated with me. Now, the reason this is different from the MCU moments that made me cry, DC is a little bit all over the place. So this is at the request of one of my subscribers and personal friends. So this is for you. I finally got around to it. Let's talk the DC moments that resonated with me. And at the end, if you have some moments that resonated with you, put them down in the comments and we'll discuss. All right, really love to commiserate with fellow geeks about ridiculous stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the DC extended universe or live action DC movie moments that made me cry. I think one of them is also animated. Oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Cyborg in Zack Snyder's Justice League. The reason I'm specifying is because Ray Fisher's role had a lot more screen time in Zack Snyder's version than it did in the Justice League. So that's why I'm talking about this. Now, content warning, trigger warning, whatever you want to say, I will be talking about thoughts of deleting myself or oneself or unsubscribing from life, whatever you want to call it. That was a big theme surrounding the Snyder Cut because, unfortunately, the tragedy surrounding it was that Zack's own daughter died by suicide. Zack made it a point to talk about this in the film in his own way through Cyborg's character mainly. He is at odds with his father, and he feels as if his life has been taken away, and he's going through this terrible depression and battling this grief of a life lost and of losing his mom. He's going through this throughout this entire film, and this is stuff that I've dealt with very personally as well, being at odds with my father over the passing of my mother. You know, having this contentious relationship. You know, Cyborg is trying to learn how to navigate the world as this new monstrous version of himself.
You don't have to be alone anymore. We'll be together again.
Make you whole again. I'm not broken. I'm not alone.
Autumn Snyder herself wrote a novel in which she speaks about this character who's feeling like an outsider in a new place and has trouble fitting in. This was a very cathartic experience for Snyder, for Zack to discuss his daughter's story through Cyborg, and it was also cathartic for people like myself who are really battling mental health issues and battling these thoughts and these existential crises. The moment that really got me was there's this storyline in which if you could say there are storylines in this film, that's a whole other thing. Batman has this troop carrier that he hasn't been able to get it to work. And, you know, he's had the best mechanics on it. He's had Alfred and himself working on it. And in the end, the troop carrier works because Cyborg repairs it. He's able to speak to this machine and see what's wrong with it. And Cyborg tells Bruce that it wasn't a hardware issue, it was a software issue. Like, it's something up here, and he says that it wanted to fly. Flight is in its nature.
You fixed it. It wanted to fly. Flight is its nature.
And I think that just speaks to all of us, that, like, we do want to do these great things and we want to live successful lives. And sometimes it's just so difficult because the programming that we have, the software is working against us. I know I get down on myself, but we got to remember that, you know, our nature is to fly. But if we try to go, you know, take some different methods and discovering what the root of our issues really are, then flight is possible for all of us. Next is Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix. I see this guy who's just continually making these terrible decisions, and he just keeps making his life worse. And I was looking at it kind of like, what do you expect is going to happen? I didn't really feel for him. And then my mother had passed, and my relationship with my father got even more strained. And then COVID happened, and I was just left alone for a lot of time. And I had to face a lot of stuff. Now, revisiting this film, I have a very different view of Arthur Fleck. He is a man who wants to get help, but this system isn't really there for him. It's not there to support him like it says it is. He has this constant theme of like saying that, the world wants you to pretend like you're not mentally ill. Like that's the wild thing about having mental illness. And also this idea of laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you cry alone. Really quick, I also think that the film originally reinforced stigma surrounding individuals who are living with mental health issues and mental illness. And, but, fast forward to now, I've seen myself in the back seat watching these issues that I wasn't really aware of guide my actions, and I've seen me do things that are uncharacteristic of who I am. I've been impulsive. I've self-harmed. I've lost jobs. I've starved myself. All the while I'm struggling to find help. And so that's where Arthur's struggle comes in, is that, his doctor is saying, oh, well, we're not going to, social worker, therapist, oh, we're not going to be able to do this anymore. We're closing, or the insurance. I haven't seen the movie in a while. The insurance lapses. That's been my experience. The insurance lapses, or this place doesn't take it. And the wait lists are so long now. Having lackluster support, having people who say they're there to help you, but just throw medicine at you, that could really impact the way that you live life. And they don't know you personally, on a level where they can judge what you should be taking or anything. I think that Arthur lives in a dangerous world, and that he's a very limited individual. He has to take care of his mother. He's not able to make meaningful connections. Also, he's part of the struggling working class. They're under the heel of the 1%, and it's not talked enough about how so many mental health issues stem from financial insecurity, depression, anxiety, addiction, domestic abuse. All of these situations that people with mental health issues face are exacerbated by financial insecurity. Regarding SSI and SNAP benefits, it's supposed to be benefits to help people, but also they do limit how much people can do with these funds, and it really puts people in a situation where they kind of just have to stay suckling the teat of the government because they're not able to save. It's illegal for them to save. It's a whole thing. The film Joker, it becomes class conscious. It creates a dialogue about how people with mental illness are more likely to be victims of violence. We saw that Arthur was as a child. They're more likely to be victims of violence than they are to be the perpetrators of it. And yeah, unfortunately, in the case of Arthur, this is what makes an entertaining movie. He does snap, and sometimes that does happen to people. They do snap. Most likely they're going to harm themselves and not others. But I definitely think that Joker speaks to what people can become when there's no community around to support them. It's just difficult to see somebody struggling through those things and seeing that those are still issues. And, it stinks because the system is overburdened. And I'm going on and on. Let's get to the next. Next is The Batman. This is a story about how if individuals don't handle their trauma, they can end up hurting others. Batman himself, or the Batman, however you want to refer to him, he believes in taking vengeance on who he believes to be the criminal element, and that's how he's going to help Gotham. Gotham is pretty awesome, though, if you really think about it. Yeah, so he thinks he's going to help Gotham by beating up criminals. But he's called out by several people. He's called out by Real. He's called out by Selina. He ends up coming to this conclusion that helping, taking others out of the darkness, when you do that, that's how you really make progress. Granted, the Lego Batman movie did beat him to that. The whole like starting with the man in the mirror thing. But the Batman really delves into how Bruce isn't a person. He's been caught in this moment ever since he was a child. And this trauma has been like holding him back. You know, they use Something in the Way to set the tone of the film. And I hadn't heard it up until this film, but like, man, if that doesn't describe it so perfectly, like sometimes you want to get past certain things or be a certain type of person or even do certain actions or help in a certain way, and there's something in the way. And it's invisible. You know, you really can't see. And this is just a frustration that comes with that comes with having trauma or some sort of neurodiversity or mental illness. It's this invisible illness, and it's difficult because it's not easy to diagnose. The night before I saw the Batman, I was in a therapy session, and the person who was helping me, she said to imagine myself in this moment where I was a kid, and what would I say to myself in that moment now? And it was really helpful for me to like kind of, as an adult, imagine, kind of reframe this context and speak to myself. And the very next day I'm watching the Batman. This is the first day it came out, I think, or it was the Friday. And he sees this boy who had just lost his father in the opening scene. You can see that he really wants to speak to this boy. He really wants to tell him like everything that he should have been told when he was a child and he lost his parents. And as you can see, it's a DC moment that still makes me cry. We find out that Bruce, by the end of it, is able to only exact real change and help people by not inspiring fear, by not punishing. He has to settle his own stuff, and he talks about overcoming scars and using them to get through that something in the way.
Our scars can destroy us, but if we survive them, they can transform us. They can give us the power to endure and the strength to fight.
When that happens, it's great. This dark night, the sun is rising and people are following him, holding the light into the future. And I think it's a way that all of us can learn to, by making ourselves better people and being held accountable and moving forward, that other people follow behind us. And it's not something that's done enough. All right, next, of course, is another Batman moment. This is out of The Dark Knight Rises, a movie that I have a lot of issues with. But upon revisiting it as an adult with mental health issues, oh my goodness. In Batman Begins, Bruce falls down into this well, and he falls in, he has this terrible moment. He's surrounded by all these bats, then there's all this fear, and the whole theme of that movie is fear and how he's been trapped in it since he was a kid, which once again, that's what Bruce Wayne is as a character. His father is the one who helps him up from that well, from that dark hole. In Dark Knight Rises, he gets beaten by Bane, he gets thrown in a literal pit once more, and he has this vision of his father, and he comes down to grab him, and he says, "Why do we fall?" And of course we know we fall so that we can learn to pick ourselves back up. Oh God, I started, and now it's going to be difficult for me to stop. Oh God, I'm sorry. Bruce, in the first film, had to be picked up by somebody else. And he finds himself alone in this moment. Selina, for all intents and purposes, betrayed him. Alfred abandoned him. He ends up having to pull himself out. And like, if I need an emotional pick-me-up, I look at that scene when he lets go of the safety rope. And he goes into the moment of insecurity, because that pressure brings out the best in him and brings out the survivor that Bruce Wayne has always been. And in doing so, once again, he drops that rope and helps the rest of the people who are struggling follow his example. And that's the idea. It's not this idea of finding the physical strength to leave the pit. It's finding this emotional strength to climb out of the pit that you've been in. Oh Oh God, Peacemaker, the story of an oblivious, ignorant Chad that wants to make friends, but he was raised so poorly that he lacks the social skills to do so. He lacks the ability to connect with people. This is also a relatable story for me. I myself grew up in problematic scenarios, and I've had to undo a lot of programming.
You can do some good with it. Maybe take out a couple of commies, some blacks, papers.
Dad, that's not my thing. I do what I do to stop criminals, not a specific.
Yeah, sure.
Chris, played by John Cena, very well by John Cena, I'll say it, that he learns to speak up against his father, and he surrounds himself with the people who actually take care of him, like Vigilante, Owly, and eventually Adebayo, Harcourt, and Diebeard. I want to say his name is Mykonos, but I know that's Michael Scott's persona from The Office.
If you change your mind, why don't you talk to Mykonos?
Is Mykonos Greek? He sounds Italian.
Ugh, you're the fifth person to tell
His terrible Greek offensive impersonation. I should know the name. I'm going to put it in here. It's something Kanos. I should know.
Economos. That's right.
Economist, mother.
We find out that Peacemaker is very self-aware. He has all of this negative self-talk. He self-harms when he's hitting himself in the clavicle that was just damaged from having a building dropped on top of him.
Everybody hates you. And Diebeard can be a friend, but you push him away like you push everybody away because you're a dick. You killed Rick Flag. Flag was right. Peacemaker. What a joke.
And he's only starting to really feel guilt and empathy as an adult. I think that he shut himself off after he, spoilers, killed his brother when he was a child, and now he's trying to grow. He's trying to make peace with himself, make peace with his past, and spread peace, but not in a way that involves him having to commit such heinous acts. He sees Vigilante as a perfect mirror to him, and that Vigilante is psychotic. And he's like, oh, this is the guy I've been hanging out with. I think a lot of our image is who we're told we're supposed to be. Like when we're growing up, it's how our parents see us. So whenever they say, oh, you're this, or you did this because you're spiteful or petty or whatever it is, or you're lazy, that's all in our heads, and we have to unlearn that growing up and kind of learn to have some grace with ourselves.
I knew you was unclean when you were born. And even more so when you killed your brother.
That was you.
I knew when you listened to that devil music. I knew when you shaved your body like a woman. I knew when you slept with the whores that polluted blood and men. And even more so when you conspired with the forces of Baphomet against the United States of America.
You killed my brother. You killed Keith. And you're only right about one thing. I am a piece of shit. I'm a piece of shit for listening to you for all those years.
James Gunn loves talking about parent issues. In the Suicide Squad, he makes Bloodsport aggressive to his daughter, even though he loves her because he's afraid of what his father had done to him, and his father gave him the rat trauma. Ratcatcher has a reverence of her own father, and that actually helps her to reach her potential. Polka Dot Man kind of falls in the middle of the line because he reaches his potential by hating and resenting his mother. It's a really common theme in James Gunn's stories. I'm very interested to see where he's going to take Superman with this. I have a couple of honorable mentions here. In the Harley Quinn series, I want to discuss this series at length. It's on HBO. It's animated. It is fantastic. Kaylee Cuoco, Lake Bell, Diedrich Bader, the whole gang, everyone brings it, and they are fantastic. But I'll follow this up and defend it. I think it's one of the most, if not the most faithful comic book to screen adaptations of the DC universe. That being said, the episode in which Harley becomes Bruce's therapist. She goes into his subconscious, sees why he became Batman, and offers to be his therapist and helps him to find a way out of the loop that he's been in.
Holy post-traumatic stress disorder, Batman! He's trying to taint your memories!
Do I have your verbal consent to become your licensed therapist?
Everything I do as Batman is to make that one night right. Yet it's never enough. So I must never forget.
Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means healing. And as your therapist, I promised to help you heal. I need to talk to the real you. It's too up in here.
Come on, champ. Let's go watch our parents die. It's what we deserve.
Like I said, very up.
Don't tell my secret.
Doctor-patient confidentiality.
The next honorable mention is in Titans, when Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing by doing karate katas in prison. This resonated with me on a deep level. If it got me like 10 years earlier, it would have been like my favorite moment in the world. Dick is struggling to create his own identity as he sheds the Robin persona and becomes his own person, his own hero, and tries to help in his own way. He's realizing a lot of the ways in which Bruce raised him and taught him were problematic and were toxic. In his head, he's fighting Bruce and he's going through his katas, and I'll go into another video also. I've studied martial arts. So that's another reason why this was huge to me. But yeah, Dick, he's going through these katas and he's kind of like battling all of the programming that he's had, and he's trying to undo it. And I thought it was, it's ridiculous and it's silly, but it resonates with me, and that's what this is about. It's not about the best DC moments. Clearly, I wouldn't have put The Dark Knight Rises in there. Maybe I would have. That's beside the point, okay? So those are all of the moments that resonated with me. Are there any that you think should have made the list but didn't? Do you have a different take on some of the moments that I mentioned? I know I mentioned Peacemaker was an entire, like the whole series is a moment for me. But let me know in the comments. Tell me what you want me to review or discuss next. Give me a good sign off. I don't have one. Comment on anything in the video, and if I choose your comment, I'll reach out and see if you want one of these sweet personal decals. Just to give away from the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, let me know what else you want to see, comment down below. Let's talk, let's start a conversation. Until next time, stay educated, stay medicated. Peace.